Okay, so here we are in another 1530 event, and we've got another business topic today. And this one today is being sponsored by Angie Carlson. And if you need to know anything about your finances and all, I really think you ought to contact Angie. So the topic today that we're going to talk about is storytelling. And I want to know, do you use it in your sales and marketing? Have you ever used it in any way? I personally, I'm going to kick this off with letting you know that I don't mean storytelling in the sense that it has to be necessarily a real story. It can be something that you have heard about through somebody else that would relate to something when you're talking to someone to get a point across, something that helps them understand more about what you are trying to convey in your sales and marketing. It can also be something you've actually experienced. I use it all the time because I have experienced a lot from a lot of different people, and I've learned from a lot of people. And so a lot of times I will use those as stories to relay to someone an experience that I've had. So that's basically what I'm talking about. Now, I don't mind if you want to say, this is a story I heard, but try to keep it short because we don't have time for somebody to give a 15-minute story. So if you can tell the story in a minute or less, I'm okay with that. So if anybody would like to kick it off and start off, Angie, if you want to unmute.
Sure, Carl. So I just wanted to say I use storytelling a lot in my business because as a coach who focuses on relieving money tension, it's hard for people to know, okay, what exactly does Angie offer without them seeing the power of that story? Because then they can be like, oh, well, she helped them with this. Maybe she can help me solve that same problem. So it's been a really effective marketing tool for me.
Yeah, and I used it when I was in the financial industry as well, because a lot of times people don't quite understand if you are just trying to get across them what you can do, but what you did for someone else, it can be very powerful. Okay. And Rob, I'm going to call on you because I know you use it because I've heard you talk about before people that you've actually helped, or you and your wife have actually helped with your with the in the insurance industry. Am I not correct?
And specifically that individual that you had brought up, she got a $12,479 medical bill through the emergency room where she was there for 45 minutes for a CT scan. And so what my wife and I are firm believers in is turning the regulators in the state, turning the billing departments into the regulators of the state. And we got that bill down to $200 from $12,479.
That's basically what I'm talking about with storytelling. If you can give an actual case or situation, it becomes a lot easier for somebody to identify with what it is you're trying to let them know how you can help them. And I appreciate that. That was good. Louise?
Yes, even though I am a storyteller by trade, I would like to take the anti-view of this. The first thing is I use storytelling when people ask me a specific question, such as, have you ever edited a similar book? Then I will go into a story. However, when I'm on a sales, when somebody is actually trying to sell me, and I ask them, how much does this cost? And they go into this long story about their mother and their brother and all getting benefits and features out of this. And all I want to know is the price. I don't like that at all. So that would be the anti-storytelling to me.
The only part that I can, comment on that, Louise, is that the person is not actually utilizing the story properly. The story is not to be used to avoid answering your question. The story should be about something to get you to ask them what something costs. It's not at a time. So if somebody's doing that, they're doing it improperly anyway. So there is a time and a place to utilize a story. So if they're used properly, I think they're a powerful tool. If not, then you should just stay away from doing storytelling. So, okay, I appreciate that. Eugene.
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I use storytelling all the time in my business. That's what it's about. And if anybody asks me what my superpower is I'm a storyteller. That's what my superpower is. I'm not great personality. Not everybody always listens to me, but if I can tell the story and I can repeat it to someone else who can repeat it to someone else, we can get a movie made. So I don't only tell stories that are imaginary or out there, to be made into a movie, but I tell stories like people ask me, why did you ever get into the business? How did you ever get into this business? And I tell them, I came a fraction of a second from death. And because of that situation, I didn't want anyone else to suffer the same situation that I was in. So I wrote a movie to hopefully solve that problem, at least possibly solve that problem, so nobody else would be in that situation again.
Okay.
So that's how I use it in my business.
Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So you use it based on, especially if they ask you why you got into the business, but you're using it so that people can understand why you feel your business is what it is and how you go about doing that and what
Yeah,
the
and
purpose
also
is.
because our films, we try to solve problems.
Right.
Most films, that's not what they're doing, in
Yeah.
the film. Yeah.
I understand. Okay, real good. Okay, Eugene. Jeff.
Yeah, I use my story for my own peripheral neuropathy. Anybody who knows me knows I'm passionate about peripheral neuropathy, and there is help out there. But it's my story of having it myself and now being symptom-free that really gets the people to understand it. Because most people I talk to have been told by their doctors that there isn't a cure, and that's true, but that doesn't mean you can't be symptom-free. One other part, since you're going to give me a minute probably, is something just happened a half an hour before I jumped on this meeting, this networking meeting, and I had a knock at the door. I went and I opened the door, and there was a cockroach standing on the welcome mat. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out how a cockroach got big and strong enough to knock on my door. It wasn't the doorbell, knocked on my door, and it immediately started to run into the house. I'm not even making this up. You can't make this up probably. And now my wife is screaming, oh my God. And I found out it was the delivery guy that had dropped a package off just outside my door. It wasn't the cockroach at all. So sometimes when you hear a story or I just made you all feel the feeling of a cockroach knocking on your door, and the storytelling is the only part of that makes you go, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, don't jump to conclusions. It probably wasn't the cockroach that knocked on the door.
Yeah,
Probably.
you're right. No, yeah, probably not. Yeah, and I was wondering where you were going to go with that, but I kind of figured out what you were talking about. So basically, it can actually create emotion, or it can create a situation where somebody can identify. And so, Chris, did you want to say something?
Yeah, stories. In our business, stories are our business. We live international, it's a health supplement company. And, science makes up our products, but it's the stories. Oh, you talk about emotion, but it's stories that will bring tears to the people's eyes, talking about hope in a can, stories that people know that there's hope for them for anything that they're dealing with. My story, begging God to take me because my life was like, ugh, what a mess. But that because of products, hope returned to your life again and you could carry on again. Is stories that make people think, oh my gosh, that could really happen to me. Stories make up everything. And as far as the price, Louise, I get it, but even that's a story. Let me tell you a story about how people get their product for free. I mean, everything is a story, So yeah, stories are everything. It's the lifeblood of your business. So yeah, I'll give it back.
You're absolutely right. And actually, what you told us, Louise, was a story. You told us of a situation that happened to you. So you actually used a story to convey why you don't always use stories. But so it's still a story. That's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily the literal sense of a story. Okay. Now I do use those if I have heard something, like the dog sitting on the nail, why you didn't get off the nail, that type of thing. Those are not necessarily stories that happen to me, but they're stories I've heard that sometimes I'll use to get a point across. So Angie.
Yeah, and the thing about stories is there's a quote that is like, we speak in words, but we think in pictures.
Yeah.
Because we can notice how the pictures can overcome any language barrier. And so being able to articulate those pictures in a way that other people have the same picture in your head that you do can be a really powerful marketing tool.
Okay, now that's good. Jeff, did you have something else you want to say? Your hand's still up. I didn't know if you did.
I did. In most sales training, you're going to hear the expression facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah,
Very
that's true. That is true. That's true. And it just makes you, I think sometimes it can make you warm up to someone. Okay. We actually have somebody in the room that is a great story himself. And I don't know if he wants to talk about it today or not, but we have Santa Claus with us today. And whether he wants to be on or not, he can raise his hand if he wants to, or if he wants to talk about this. Santa, would you like to say something?
Absolutely, you know, Carl, and telling stories, whether they're a little bit short or they're in your presentation, they add credibility as long as you can tell the story that they believe. And credibility goes along with know, like, and trust in your business relationship with your people that you're talking to. And we all know that networking, you want to have those three words be definitely part of your story, because then they'll be able to tell your story to their friends. So storytelling, as long as you don't overdo it, there has to be the mindful set that you have to be respectful of the other people's times.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, that's very good. Okay, so has everybody participated that would like to participate with that today? If not, I'll give you a last chance. Okay, would you mind if I finished up with a little story that actually happened to me? As a lot of you know, I used to work for the the owner or the person who started the Auto Trader publication, which was a national and finally international company. And when he hired me, or he was hiring me up for my interview, I asked him how he made all that money. And I said, I'm really curious if you don't mind telling me the secret sauce. So he said, "Oh, I don't have a problem at all. But what I would want you to do is I'm sitting in front of this great big oak desk. He wants me to tap my finger on the desk the whole time that I am listening to how he made all this money." And I thought, well, not only is this guy crazy, but I don't know why he's asking me to tap my finger. So I started tapping my finger, and I'm going to try to make this short, but it went on for about 15 minutes. And during that 15 minutes, my finger is really getting sore. And I stopped him a couple of times. I said, "Can I stop now?" He said, "No, not now." And so I kept doing it. So finally he told me how he made all that money. And finally he says, "Okay, you can stop tapping." And I said, "Well, thank you." I said, "Why did you have me tapping my finger?" He said, "Well, if you really want to know why or how I made all the money I did and became a success story." I mean, he sold his company for millions and millions and millions of dollars. He said, "The reason is because I kept tapping." He said, "If you'd have kept tapping, you would have broken through." He said, "But you stopped in 15 minutes because your finger hurt." He said, "You can't stop tapping. You got to keep tapping until you just fail to refuse. You want to continue tapping until you make it, no matter how much it hurts." He said, "Because it's not, success isn't easy. It's difficult." So that was just a story that I have told people on success when I did, sales and marketing workshops, because it's a true story. None of this is easy. Nobody gives us a magic bullet to make anything happen. So that's a story that I've used to convey to people to get them to understand it, that, you just have to keep tapping. So anyway, so I'll leave it there. All right. So listen, I think that this was another good topic this week. I'm going to stop the recording here in a second. I will post this on both the connections directory and on our YouTube channel, the I Refuse to Fail YouTube channel. So you all can check that out. And I really would appreciate it if anybody views this, or if you like even seeing yourself on the camera and you want to share it with your people, put it on LinkedIn, put it on your social media, so that maybe somebody else, it might help them in understanding the power of storytelling. So I'm going to stop the recording